The movie starts at Pellington High School. A basketball match is in progress. During a break, the coach gives directions to his top athletes, Mason, frequently called Horse, and Dean, regarding how to clinch the victory. Once play begins again, Mason makes several vital baskets for his squad. Suddenly, he experiences a sensation that he is being observed. Dean shouts his name, which pulls Mason out of his peculiar daze. As the time remaining disappears, the team relies on Mason to attempt the winning shot. While shooting, he spots the scorched individual from earlier reaching toward him. The shot is successful. The spectators cheer loudly as the scorched man dissipates. Moments afterward, Mason hurries to his locker, feeling chills as he opens it. He retrieves an ancient urn. The scorched man reappears, advancing toward him. In a state of panic, Mason seizes a weight and crushes the urn. The sound of footsteps ceases. Shortly after, his teammates crowd him to celebrate the game-winning basket. Eventually, Mason gets into the shower. What starts as a calm moment fast becomes a nightmare. On this occasion, the entity ignites him. Dean watches in horror as his closest friend is consumed by fire. 6 months later, Chris relocates to Pellington from Chicago following the loss of her father in a devastating car crash. Consequently, she moves in with her uncle and her cousin, Ree. During the trip into the area, she spots an imposing steel mill where Ree works part-time and a nearby house of worship. Roughly an hour later, she gets to the residence. Ree welcomes her with excitement, momentarily catching her off guard. He offers assistance with her bags and teases her for being old-fashioned when he notices her records. Shortly thereafter, he prompts Chris to prepare for her initial day at Pellington. At the school, Ree reads comics while other students gaze at Chris. Ree begins identifying the social circles, starting with Grace. However, Chris becomes interested in Grace's soft-spoken companion, whom Ree identifies as Ellie. Chris asks about the identity of Horse. Ree explains it was the nickname for Mason, a student who recently passed away from the flu. At that point, Mason's associates, Dean and Tanner, approach Chris and inform her she cannot utilize that locker. She disputes this, noting it was the one she was given. Grace intervenes, advising Dean not to make trouble. Attempting to win Grace's favor, Ree praises her hair. She smiles and asks about Chris, and he clarifies that she is his cousin. Dean sneers and asks if Chris is the new student. He then claims he heard a story that she was recently in rehabilitation and even caused her father's death. Frustrated, Chris strikes him between the legs. Regrettably, their history instructor, Mr. Craven, witnesses the disturbance and sentences all four to detention. Ellie maintains that Chris did nothing wrong. Craven asserts he witnessed everything and gives Ellie detention as well for being dishonest. Moments later, the signal sounds. Ellie expresses regret for Dean's actions and offers assistance, though Chris turns it down. Chris then spots an old-looking vessel inside her locker. Intrigued, she removes it and opens it, finding a whistle shaped like a skull. She brings it to her mouth and attempts to use it. However, at that moment, she hears the bell again. She heads toward her detention. Craven remarks on her arrival using her full name, Chrysanthemum. Dean giggles at the mention of her full name. When Chris puts down her bag, the whistle falls out and hits the table. Dean immediately questions Mr. Craven if drug paraphernalia is permitted at school. Chris quickly explains it is not for drugs.
Craven signals for her to hand it over, and she explains she discovered it in her locker. Looking at the object closely, Craven observes that the markings look like early Mayan text. He tries to translate it, noting that Kaba means to signal or call out to something. He then finds another term, Pixen, which he does not know. Grace quickly looks it up on her computer and states it means to summon those who have died. When Chris tries to take the whistle back, Craven pulls it away, stating he will keep it due to its potential historical importance. He ends the detention early. Soon after, Grace invites the group to her home for a pool gathering. Observing the way Rhee looks at Grace, she playfully asks if he has feelings for her. Rhee confirms this. Meanwhile, Craven learns the whistle could be worth roughly $35,000. Wanting to verify its state, he uses the whistle. Pleased that it functions, he notes its excellent condition. Outside, Rhee tells Chris that Dean was wrong to mention her father. Chris dismisses it, saying it is okay. A moment later, Rhee realizes he left his comic in the classroom and goes back to get it. He sees Mr. Craven exiting the room. Once the teacher is gone, Rhee slips inside, takes his comic, and sees the teacher's laptop is still active. Outside, a young man introduces himself to Chris as Noah, a youth pastor from the nearby St. Mark's Church. He asks about her religious beliefs. Chris says she isn't interested in religion. Noah then invites her to his church to meet people and enjoy herself. He produces drugs, offering them as a gift. Rhee quickly intervenes, telling Noah to stay away from her. Chris tells Noah to stop. He calmly says God has a mission for everyone and claims he is only assisting the needy. Parents send children to his church and he sells them drugs. He mentions that one student overdosed a year prior. That night, Craven looks at vacation options online. However, when he opens the vessel to check the whistle, he finds it is missing. Craven thinks the janitor, Charlie, might know something and calls for him. As he enters the corridor, he sees a pale, unhealthy-looking man nearby. Craven tells him the school is shut and he is trespassing. Suddenly, Charlie appears behind Craven, giving him a fright. Still rattled, Craven says he needs to rest for a bit. Charlie asks if the teacher's secret is safe with him while making a smoking motion. Craven returns to his room only to find the sickly man waiting. Suddenly, Craven begins coughing violently as his breathing fails. Within moments, he collapses and passes away. Meanwhile, Rhee and Chris get to Grace's house for the party. Rhee then shows everyone the whistle. Dean jokes about calling his grandfather, but Grace notes he isn't dead yet. She sees her younger brother Timmy nearby and tells him to go to his room. Looking at the whistle, Grace praises its detail. Ellie, who works at the hospital, quietly says that death is not beautiful. Dean challenges his girlfriend to blow the whistle. Chris states she wants nothing to do with calling upon death. Ellie tells her she doesn't have to stay. Finally, Grace uses the whistle. After a short time, Dean asks if anyone else hears a sound. Chris says goodbye and begins to leave, but Ellie stops her and invites her to the local harvest festival the following day. Chris hesitates before smiling. Just then, Rhee rushes out and hands Ellie her insulin pouch. Ellie thanks him and tells Chris she is late for her hospital shift. Before departing, she asks Chris to message her and tells her to get her number from Rhee. Chris then asks Rhee if Ellie likes men. Rhee admits he doesn't know. Later that evening, Chris lies on her bed drafting a message to Ellie. She deletes and rewrites it several times. While looking at her phone, she feels observed. She looks toward the window and goes still. The door opens without warning and Rhee enters, startling her.
She notices with horror that she accidentally sent her unfinished text. She panics, but Ray tells her to relax and sends Ellie a response himself. Meanwhile, by the pool, Grace is doing schoolwork when she hears faint breathing. Thinking it is her brother, she ignores it until it persists. Feeling worried, she leaves the pool to check. She hears someone running behind her and turns. Just then, a hand touches her face. She spins and sees Timmy. He tells her their mother wants to talk to her. The following morning, Ray and Chris attend the school assembly. Ellie tells them that Mr. Craven died the previous night from advanced lung cancer. Ellie then notices a hooded person nearby who appears to be having a seizure. The person turns toward her and seems to mouth her name. Grace returns the whistle to Chris, saying she no longer wants it. Chris suggests they return it to Mason's family. Chris and Ellie go to Mason's house. On the way, Ellie asks Chris why she hides her tattoos. Chris says it is personal. Ellie asks how she chooses what to get tattooed. Chris replies that you find something you love and let it leave a permanent mark. Chris knocks and the door opens. Mason's grandmother, Ivy, comes down. She mutters about wanting to die in the house, even though the bank took it. Ivy leads them to a room of occult artifacts. She explains she collects them as reminders of mortality. Chris asks if the whistle is hers. Ivy says the whistle found Chris just as it found her daughter and grandson. Chris asks what it does. Ivy says it is called Inchoka, meaning the cry. It was a stolen relic. Chris mentions summon the dead, but Ivy corrects her, summon your death. She explains that a person's death is born with them and searches for them. If someone is meant to die at 90, death takes 90 years to find them. However, the whistle's sound guides death to them much sooner. Chris asks what death looks like. Ivy says it looks like you, becoming what you would have been at your final breath. Chris asks what happens if someone doesn't want to die, and Ivy says they should never have been born. Outside, Ellie says Ivy is heavily medicated and grieving, which distorts her reality. She notes there is no scientific basis for Ivy's claims. Chris asks if Craven might have used the whistle like Mason did. Ellie suggests their files might be at the hospital where she works. Inside the medical records room, Ellie admits Mason's death never made sense. He supposedly caught fire in a shower due to a gas leak, but he was burned beyond recognition. A doctor enters and the girls hide. Chris takes Mason's dental record and asks his age when he died. Ellie says 17. Chris notes the report suggests someone in their late 40s. Chris recalls Ivy's words about becoming what you would have been at your final breath. Ellie realizes Mason was meant to die in his 40s, but the whistle brought death early, just as it did for Craven. They rush to warn the others. At the festival, Ray sees Noah giving something to Grace. He tells her she doesn't need it. Grace says it is just weed. Ray tells her to toss it so he can win her a bear. Grace declines, saying he will make someone else very happy one day. Grace challenges Dean to a game in the hay maze. He must wait 2 minutes before searching for her. If he finds her before she rings the center bell, he wins. Chris and Ellie arrive, and Chris tries to call Ray, but he doesn't answer. Noah appears, trying to sell drugs. Noah pulls a knife, saying he didn't want to hurt anyone. Chris takes the knife and asks about the boy his drugs killed. Noah denies it. Chris cuts his nose. In the maze, Grace runs while figures jump out. Dean and his friend enter after the countdown. Grace hears her name and thinks it is Dean, but she sees an old woman staring at her. The woman calls her name again, and Grace runs. Outside, Chris asks Ree where the others are. Ree joins them and they enter the maze. Grace calls Dean, whispering that an old woman is following her. Dean laughs it off. Grace drops her phone and screams. She hits the old woman with a shovel. Grace falls and sees she is bleeding from her temple, just like the woman she hit. The woman gets up and Grace runs. Dean calls for Grace but gets no answer. Grace squeezes through a gap in the hay and finds the old woman right behind her. The figure grabs her, but Grace breaks free. She reaches the center and rings the bell. The others rush to the sound. Later, Chris explains the old woman was Grace, who was meant to die of old age. Ellie reminds them that blowing the whistle summoned all their deaths. Dean refuses to believe it and goes home. He blames Chris for the strange events. Ree points out Dean dared Grace to blow it. Dean shoves Ree and says he could never be with a girl like Grace. That night, Dean sees a bloodied figure in his room. His father knocks and warns him not to drink and drive, as it could be his death. At Ree's house, Chris tells Ellie she overdosed a year ago. Her father was driving her to the hospital when they crashed. He died and she survived. Chris admits she sometimes wishes she died instead. Ellie kisses her. Chris kisses her back. On the terrace, Ree has a vision of himself being crushed by machinery. The next morning, they visit a dying Ivy. Chris asks what the whistle wants.
Ivy says it has been collecting souls for thousands of years. She says death is unstoppable, but mentions one can alter its course by marking blood on another as a sacrifice. Chris sees her own death nearby. Ivy whispers that living is a choice. Rhee considers sacrifice, but the girls refuse. Chris says her death looked like a future overdose. Rhee storms out. Dean watches news of an unidentified elderly woman's body being found. He sees the bloodied figure again and barricades his door. The figure touches him and his body twists as if in a high-speed crash. His parents find the horrific scene. Chris and Ellie find Rhee gone and head to the steel mill. Rhee goes to the church with a gun and takes Noah. At the mill, Rhee ties Noah to a chair, saying this is where they will both die. Rhee cuts his palm to mark Noah. Chris and Ellie arrive and tell him to stop. Rhee argues that a scumbag like Noah shouldn't live while they die, but he cannot go through with it. He says everyone has to die once, which gives Chris an idea. Before she can explain, Rhee is killed by machinery. Chris vows to save Ellie. Her plan is to trick death by dying briefly. She asks if insulin can stop the heart, but Ellie has another idea. Chris faces her death inside. Ellie prepares medicine while Chris readies an ice bath and defibrillator. Chris collapses. Ellie puts her in ice water to preserve her brain while her heart is stopped. Noah wakes up, takes the gun, and tries to enter. Ellie tries to revive Chris while seeing her own death. Chris struggles with her death but focuses on Ellie's voice. Noah enters and shoots Ellie, but she keeps working on Chris. Chris revives and sees Ellie's death. Noah rants and claims to be washed in blood, but he sees a grotesque figure and dies after firing wildly. 3 months later, Ellie and Chris are dating. Meanwhile, a new student named Asha finds an urn in her locker. At an assembly, she is introduced to play the violin, but she lifts the whistle and blows it. And that is how the movie comes to an end.